Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John's reports for the 7th of July. Well, from a S&P standpoint, we dipped to the ABM yellow and proceeded to pop up from there. I mean, there's been no change in these readings, so it was minor, little pullback, nothing too dramatic. It filled the positive extreme that had taken place, well, right here, and that's exactly what that does, and perfect. But still, I mean, you're looking at almost zero for the MBI weight. I mean, that's pretty extreme. So we're getting there. This is going to generate the volatility that I think that we can all see building. Actually, I was reading a couple articles that just came out about it today. So I'll, if I can, I'll find it and I'll post it on our Skype chat just so you can read it, because it talks about the same thing I'd been seeing. It's like when you get these relative quiet periods, while they seem extended in a period of time, what they lead to usually is outside volatility, meaning broader swings that usually fluctuate. Now, that said, this also is similar to the time I spoke about the early 90s and that slow ebb higher and higher as asset price. Now, in that case, you had economic growth, budgets under control. Here you have pretty much the opposite of that. Out of control budgets, unlimited printing, and so an expectation for pretty extreme inflation. Now, should inflation not meet the expectation that's being built into what you're seeing here, like for these run-ups in the NASDAQ, yeah, then you've got plenty of room down below to recalibrate for that. But for now, it is looking like there is significant inflation unless things are moving along. You wouldn't be able to tell it by gold, but you know, some of this is depressed because it's one of those rotation situations where you're not exactly going to have the same correlated spike to inflation that you'll get with gold. We had the run-up leading to the idea of it, filled back all these positive extremes going all the way back from over here, and then even before that run we had this one right here that's pretty much the level that price currently sits at. In general though, it's going to catapult it over time, particularly when the broader catalysts really become clear. Of course, as we've talked about, you have the alternative of the cryptocurrencies, which certainly draw a lot from it because it's an alternative space to do that. And it's, you know, if I put Bitcoin up real quick, we can see it's just been hovering at this constant 34K number, slightly below, slightly above. That's been an algo level that had existed a while. I mean, the range within that is still decent, just pretty slow now. Part of that's probably the China crackdown and the change there. And of course, the euro really can't catch anything because, you know, at their best efforts, the EU really does what it can to prevent any kind of real potential growth. And they're making it worse with some of their environmental emission demands, and that it's really stifling things even further coming out of the COVID situation. And this inability to reestablish travel, even though you've seen large vaccinations and everything else, and mortality has really not been a factor. Now that you understand things, they still haven't been able to turn that around, and until that does, Arizona's got some issues. From an intraday standpoint, it was kind of fun because, well, we had previously been in a soft patch that started right here. We had a brief break of that where the magenta really spiked up strong, but then it took a little while for it to break down, and this is a tougher one because the magenta stayed above throughout the whole period, so it was one of those where literally had to wait for the breakdown below the 33 and then the pop-up, and that turned out to be short-lived here. Even though you had this constant rise, you knew that it was going to fade. It was just a question of when that would happen, and it didn't take long because, I mean, literally as soon as magenta pivoted, it was below yellow and as well below the 33, and that led to the cascade. Now, we had a couple of these, and these are anomalies that I worked out with the program. Technically, yes, you had your steel cross above, orange dip below, green cross above, all the things that you look for, not to mention you had the magenta spiking above. It's a tough one because it meets those criteria. But quickly, white overtakes it within 2 bars, literally, from that signaling. We kind of knew that we were sort of in a weak setup, looking for this fill of the positive extreme from the previous day that hadn't. That was the only thing that I was believing, that this was going to continue to the downside on that. And sure enough, it did. And then, of course, you kept having the white spikes. And every time magenta tried to get over, wasn't able to sustain it because no steel reset from that point. This first one that took place, you did have those things. So that one was legitimate from that standpoint. Coming over from here, not so much, because you were DOC read well below -13, and it continued that cascade. So these are some of the little adjustments that I continue to make with PNT2A. And the turnaround, legitimate when it came in, because you had all of those moves along with the cyan dipping below green on the DOC. A couple of times where it gets close or makes that original pop and then reverts, and then I'm just looking for, now when that happens and I see that break, I'm looking for that white projection, and then I'm going with that one, because those are usually tend to be the best movers in those particular cases. As we came to that end, though, popped up, and you can see remained well above there, and even when it did dip, you couldn't get white over red, so it was not going to go very far. The closest that it came was right over here at the end of the day, and that drove down just a little bit for making a turnaround and popping back up again. So, and that's where we find ourselves at this particular stage, holding on, but as soon as that breaks down a little bit and you get a white spike, we're going to see a bit more of a retrace on that one coming back in. And right back to this algo level, because we set up a whole new series of them with the positive extremes from right over here as this rally took place. As always, though, I will continue to pop on Skype chat, put up relevant details, and go over some of these additional setups as they pop up. Trade one. We'll talk to you later.